Hey all in the coaching group, wanted to say a couple of words of New Year's greetings to you and also let you know about something happening locally in many of yours area. For those back home in the Jefferson County, Missouri, South St. Louis area, or even St. Louis itself area, I will be speaking at a church-based seminar on Saturday, this coming Saturday, doing a workshop that's 4 hours long, 8 to noon. I'm going to drop that information here in the group later on so that if you're interested, that you can get there, or if you know someone that would benefit from this, that you could gift that to them. The price is very reasonable, and it's going to cover a whole lot of financial education, and it's designed in a practical way to help folks to actually take action and to identify steps for themselves. It's very usable and practically relatable. It's not just like a go and fill in the blank type of thing. The workbook and the way everything is being done is intentional. And then I'll be doing a Q&A at the church that Sunday as well for church members and folks that they may reach in the community through the workshop to be able to come and do some more fleshing out of questions they may have during their Sunday school hour. But I wanted to also say a couple of words of New Year's greetings. So it is 2026, and I'm just going to say something that maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, but throw New Year's resolutions out the window. Because resolutions, we make this list, there's things we want to change, they don't tend to stick. We all know that, by February or maybe even by now, we've already given up. Here's what I want to encourage you with, though. You can make changes in 2026. If you don't make any changes to your lifestyle, how you're living, how you're processing things, how you make decisions, whether it's your health, what you're eating, or how you're exercising, the point is not to have just some grandiose goal. It can be great to have a goal of losing 25 pounds or saving $10,000 this year or getting a promotion. All those things are great. But here's the real question, and this is what really drives change and builds the momentum. The resolution, identifying the goal or the hope to, or even I'm going to super aggressively go cold turkey and do this, that's not as effective as what I'm about to say. Micro-habit change. Micro-habits are small, intentional changes that you can put into place that really don't take that much time, not necessarily that much effort, but they compound just like your financial retirement does. And I shared a meme about that in the group just the other day. It's very well known mathematically, and it is completely true that if you invest money and you continue to get interest on that money and then interest on the money plus the interest and so on year and year after year after year, a small amount of money can grow dramatically over time. It's not quick. It's not like tomorrow you're going to be a millionaire. But if you invest as little as $2,000 a year at 12% interest over 40 or 50 years, yeah, that can turn into well over $1 million or even over $2 million because of the effect of you kept getting the interest every year. Now your actual return, may vary. You might have 14% one year, 8% another, whatever. The point is the compounding effect. And we see that mathematically about how investing works. But did you know that it's the same way in your life? What you don't need to be after is 100% improvement by next week. That's very hard and very stressful. But actually, what if you dissected that goal and identified a couple of micro habits? For example, last year, I wanted to not only build more of a habit of connection, I wanted to also de-stress from all of the stress and anxiety I was feeling about sales in terms of business. I didn't want to be heavy-handed selling. I wanted to be service-oriented. So I made some micro-habit shifts. I began to contact at least 5 people a day to just make a connection. Maybe it's reconnecting with somebody I knew. Maybe it was setting up an appointment. Maybe it was even giving away a little bit of micro-coaching, like helping them with some small problem or something that came up in their life, like just 5 minutes of being a friend type thing. It's not like I was doing a whole bunch. But those habits over time, and it was a little awkward, and I got to do it again, and I got to carve that out and make that happen in my schedule today. But you know what? It actually began to build momentum. And then now, looking at over half a year later, moving into this new segment of time in January, it's almost an automatic thing. And those different habits I built multiply. Now, let's talk about this from the perspective of like dieting or weight loss. Some simple things you can do to begin working toward perhaps that New Year's resolution that you've already given up on. Instead, scratch the resolution. And what about you look at what are healthier meals and more healthy nutrition I can put into my body? What about portion control? What if I take smaller bites? What if I even use a smaller fork or a smaller plate and I'm putting better things on there? If I'm snacking, what if I begin by limiting my portion size? Just going cold turkey and trying to eliminate like all sugar out of your life or all whatever. You're probably going to feel the effects a lot more than if you slowly shrunk it. Also, you might be more intentional about making a real habit change. Now, people got grit and they stick to it and then they get a bunch of weight off. They're super dedicated. But what tends to happen for many of us? It comes back because once we achieve the goal or we stuck to it for a period of time, we didn't make lasting habit changes. So what if you can dissect some micro habits, like you're going to eat more better nutrition, you're going to limit like the portion size or the total amount of sugar intake you typically have, and by changing that habit on a regular basis, it's just part of who you are now. Maybe even just a habit of you're going to drink water more often. You're going to drink, a whole thing of water on your way into work or something. Or you're going to have it before your first meeting of the day or whatever. You develop a habit like that, or you develop a habit to somehow de-stress after work, whether that's taking a walk, whether that's listening to calming music. You might have a list of a few different things, but you intentionally build that habit to release the stress and to get yourself into a place to really rest better once you get home. They're micro habits, but they have compounding effects for your health, for your mental state of mind, all of those things, your quality of life. They're all impacted. But what if you focused on an actual habit shift? Not something huge. These things I'm describing are not huge. Like drinking one more glass of water a day, or using a smaller plate or a smaller fork, or intentionally buying some stuff that's going to be a little healthier for me and eating that more and not buying as much of the other stuff. Those are habit changes that will pay off towards your health and toward those goals long term. And if that becomes a way of life, you're building a habit and building something that's going to pay off much longer because it becomes part, after a while, of your very DNA. I had about 20 micro habits that I put into place around September of last year. And those micro habits are now something I have it automatically set on my phone. It took me a few minutes to set it up, but it automatically goes to my, it's synced to my email. It goes to a task list that auto-generates 5 days a week during the work week. And I go to that, and it has these 20 things. And I can take about 2 minutes now and go, and have I done those things? Occasionally I've missed one, but on an average day, I've now built these habits. Now, the little reminder there for me of go check it off is worth the 2 minutes to my day, but the effectiveness of those habits I built were huge. So one of the things in my habits today is, for this year, is I want to study Scripture more effectively. So one way I practically did that, I want to get in the habit of studying Scripture more, not just reading devotionally or just reading through. I've done a lot of that, done a lot of it over the years, did a lot of that last year. I learned a lot of things. But I wanted to really interact, and this year, my hope is I want to get a lot more of my training and my sustenance and the major education of the year. I want to be in the Word and not as many books and podcasts and stuff as last year. Now, I didn't listen to that many podcasts. I did a whole lot of trainings. I had a business launch and all types of things, and I had certifications and such to pass, and so I had coursework and things. But this year, I really wanted to focus on the Word. So how have I done that? Well, one, I'm actually doing the work by springboarding into this, both last year in a small habit, and then this year in another habit that I actually had a lot of the work done, but I'll explain that for just a moment. So I wanted to study the Word more. Last year, in one men's group that I'm in, group of friends, we began to study the book of Job together, and the way we decided to do it is that we were going to study one chapter a week and we were going to compare notes. And that was good for me because it got me to, I read through the passage a few different times during the week, maybe even pick up a commentary or something if I'm stuck on trying to understand something or how to apply it. And that happens. And sometimes I just got to sit with it for several days because I'm not quite sure I understand it or how to apply this or flesh it out and dissect the meat, so to speak, digest it. So I meditate on it and use tools and stuff where appropriate. But what I began to do is I'm comparing my notes every week. So I actually walk through my study framework. I read the scripture. I use the SOAP acronym, SOAP. I observe the context. I apply it. How do I faithfully apply this in a way that's congruent with scripture and also practical? And then, so faithful application, not just innovative. And then P, praying the scripture. How am I praying back the concept or the heart of this passage to the Lord? Maybe there's even a prayer in there that I can pray back. And so I began to build that habit last year for a month and a half or so probably. And then this year, I relaunched the Gen 1 to Rev 22 project. And so that's something that some of you have interacted with, stuff I've done over the years. That's something I've done for about 7 years now. And it's simply a project of walking through scripture verse by verse. Here's the way I did it though. I found out that I had a segment of people that wanted to read expository outlines. They wanted to read essentially my notes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I had everything on several books of the Bible. I decided I'm going to start with Nehemiah. I've been wanting to type up these notes and begin to work on like a Bible study or something. And so I made the commitment to studying more. And that was a great springboard. I had a small group of people that said, hey, we want to read this. And so I just made that part of my Substack, part of my blog where people subscribe. And that is also slowly growing, as more people are participating in it. But I have a lot of the work already done. I'm fleshing out more notes and work I've done in the past. And it takes some time. But by doing that, I am not only working toward that larger goal of studying scripture more, by re-engaging study I've done in the past and going a little deeper, and then the accountability element of having a group of people that I'm doing it with or that are engaging with it. They're reading, commenting, signing up. There's motivation to continue it. And then also over here, I have a balance of both things I've studied in the past and things I'm studying anew. And so not everything is brand new pouring me out. I'm also able to work ahead and auto schedule and that type of thing from a blogging perspective. So those things are allowing me to build a habit a few days into the year. So my point of saying all that is, how can you build habits? Now a blog, that's a bigger type of goal. That does take a little bit more time. But the way to accomplish it was I had an element of accountability. I had an element of something I could work with. It feeds into other goals of mine, like I'd like to publish a book every quarter this year because I have a bunch of half-made books. And if you're writing a 100-page book, that's something that's very doable when you have so much of the raw material. It just needs to be organized and brought together and edited. That really is the easier part compared to the bulk that's been done, and it's been so scattered. So there's these other goals, if you will, that maybe you would use the term resolution. They're larger goals. But I want to say this before I end. Microhabits are the path to real change, but also this. Don't be afraid to pivot. Okay? Hiccups, setbacks, or even course corrections, or even shifting direction completely is not a sign that you failed in setting out in something in a new year. I also want to say this. I know I said one more thing, but this came to mind as well. It was very helpful to me the end of last year. As much as January is a time when you many times think of new beginnings, it's probably a much healthier mindset to adopt. That yes, there's something to reflect on and glean lessons and such from a previous year, but really, I'm just continuing, and you're just continuing on what was already going on in November and December of last year. We're just continuing that. There's a lot of truth in that to my own life. Like I can think of some things that we had to deal with. We had to deal with a fraud situation, with something that came up. That led into the new year. or was being resolved and everything, and that was something that carried in. I can think of coaching situations and like this seminar coming up. Stuff was prepared in the past last year, but then it's rolling out into the new year. There's really not a separation. I'm just rolling into the things that were already set, the plans or the things that were set in motion, the momentum, or that coaching package or whatever I sold or brought somebody on. They may have wanted to officially start in January, but all of that work was already done. So my point is, you're really stepping now. What you're living in this first week, it's the 7th day of January, what you're really experiencing is the fruit of what you've been stepping into from back in December and January. Now that might change the way you think of it coming up, but it also changes the way you think of some other things. This is also a time of year where taxes are coming up, right? Like this first quarter of the year, there's a lot of work being done on that. And already this week, I put in a lot of work on the process of beginning, like all that goes into that, right? There's a lot of work, especially when you own a small business, and there's more components to that. Even though I work with an accountant, getting everything ready, and that does take work on my end to then get it all in order and together for them. So there's systems I can apply throughout the year, microhabits of managing and staying on top of that, but there is other elements or other steps I need to put in place as I get closer to something. But a habitual thing for years has been that this time of the year I begin to knock out what I can so that it's less anxiety and less stress as I'm getting closer and closer to taxes. I love to have it all. I love to be in the position to where I'm waiting to get one more document or something from an institution so that I can get it submitted early, get my tax refund early. That's a habit that has been built over years. And there's been micro shifts. I pivot, or I might even completely redirect. The way that some things are done now is completely different than years ago. And also there's, changes. So this has been a couple of minutes. I'm going to drop that information once again in the group about the financial seminar that's coming up. And if you're in the area, would love to see you, would love to have you participate in that. It'll give all the info on how you can sign up through the church and stuff. They're managing all that for me. Very thankful that they're doing that administrative work and the enrollment work to it. And also, though, if you know someone that could benefit from this, that's in need, or that really would want to be part of this, please pass it on. There's still some openings for it, and so it could be a great opportunity, not just for adults, but also for older teens. It could be really great to learn about some basic financial things about budgeting and the basics of investment and retirement and how to plan for their future. If you learn that as a teenager, like I did, the tail end of high school, man, that really can make some substantial differences in your life if you get some solid advice and begin putting it to work. Small things can pay off big time down the road. So that is, again, something you could give to someone else that you know that's in need, even if you may not be able or desire to attend in the area, or you might be able to pass on the information to somebody else that can pay for it themselves, but could really benefit from it. All right, God bless you all, and hope this little coaching moment of thought was motivating and encouraging to you. Feel free to drop a comment in these videos whenever you want. God bless.